On today's episode of the Marketing Expedition podcast, I get to speak with Nick Aldinger, and he is the CEO of IBL Events, one of Idaho's largest producers of trade shows, conferences, and now virtual events. Nick's passion for helping individuals and companies grow is what fuels his passion. Over the last 20 years, Nick has had the privilege of being involved in multiple startups, working for the government, being an adjunct professor for Boise State University, go Broncos, and working for a Fortune 500 company, Micron Technology. Nick is a results-oriented, decisive leader with proven success in new marketing identification and tactics and strategic planning and leading diverse cross-functional teams. Nick was born and raised in Idaho and considers Idaho one of the greatest places to live. He is even convinced his wife, who is from Alabama, that the Northwest was always home. Nick received his undergraduate degree in Business Information Systems from the University of Montana and his master's degree in Business Administration from Northwest Nazarene University. And in his spare time, Nick enjoys spending his time with his wife and 2 sons while occasionally getting in a round of golf. But before we get to Nick's interview, I need to tell you all about Ibotta, cash back on groceries, online purchases, and more. And if you'd like to try Ibotta with this cash back rewards app that I use to make real money every time I shop for groceries and online purchases and more, you can use my referral code. Go to peppershock.com/offers and select the Ibotta app, and then you get a special gift by doing that, as well as I do too, which is great. And I gotta tell you, I have actually made some pretty good money over the years using this Ibotta app. And all you do is just put your groceries in the cart, get your receipt, and then accept the offers that are matching to what you have. Load up your receipt, and that's it. And then you get money back. And then once it gets to $20, they can put money in your PayPal account, and I have actually gotten several $100s by doing this. So I want to share this app with you because I think it is going to be something you're going to enjoy while getting money back when you shop for the things that you would normally buy anyway, right? Go to peppershock.com/offers and select the Ibotta app, and you get a special gift from me by doing that with the link that's there. Okay, now it's time for the Marketing Essentials moment. The basics, the essentials that you need to help you build your brand and your bottom line. And today I want to talk about, why do you need a graphic designer? You can use all these apps and do these things yourself, but why is it important to have somebody that is a graphic designer help you in building your brand and your bottom line? And why is graphic design so important? So let's first off start off, what does a graphic designer do? And why does your company or organization need one? If you've got promotional flyers, mailers, posters, signs, banners, logos, websites, social media posts, menus, packaging brochures, folders, door hangers, I should say, postcards, video graphics, books, window clings, vehicle wrap, business cards, billboards, photos that need edited, right? We want to use photos and faces. So all of those things is what a graphic designer can do. And what else could you add to this list that maybe you're not so great at, or maybe you just don't have time to do it, right? So graphic designers will take their talent and all of their years of schooling, their expertise, their experiences, and make something great. They're creative, they're passionate about what they're doing. All their skills and experience becomes a visual storyteller for your brand. And you want to get it right. You want to make sure that what you're putting out there in the world is going to help you in your brand, right? The brilliance behind being able to create the brand strategy behind what your look and feel is going to be, the color schemes that they use, all of the things. Even if you want to have a graphic designer create a template that you could update in Canva or Spark or any of these things, it's really important to have the ability to utilize the skill set of a designer. Now, we also have our designers doing things for us, and we have others that help us too. And if we can have a template for them to follow, then it makes it all the better. So it's consistent, and the branding is what you want it to be. The fonts that you use, the brand standards, the brand guideline that you have, all of those things can be done by a graphic designer who's educated in the industry. And you want to make sure that they're experienced. And so how do you know what kind of graphic designer you need and what is going to be a good fit? Are they willing to listen to what your ideas are? Are they able to pull out of your brain what it is that you have envisioned? And is it going to hit the target audience, right? And sometimes we're not our own target audience, right? So if you think about it, graphic designers have experience in lots of different target audiences that they can work with, especially if it's at an agency and they have different clients that they work with. They can draw on all of that experience and tell you what not to do or what to do, or give you suggestions and ideas and show you what could be really effective in the results that you're looking. Sometimes if you try to do something on your own, and there's nothing wrong about DIYing it if you have to, but when you're ready to level up and have somebody do what needs to get done to help you tell your brand story to the world using design, it's really important. It's because designers use their skills and all the education that they paid to go to school for, right? They have the ability to make special designs and create them out digitally, and they can give you options. They can print it for the world to see, and then you can use that to your advantage and then use it across all of the different platforms that you're using, create the different sizes and all of the things that you need to know before you go to print. What is the high quality version? What kind of colors are you going to call out? What kind of, to keep it consistent, right? They're going to be able to tell you and do all of those things that's going to help with your special treatment that's going to happen when you use the right graphic designer. So questions you can ask, right? What kind of experience do you have? What's your portfolio? What are some things that you've done before for others? What kinds of success have you had by doing these designs for others? What kind of engagement? What kind of, results did you get from the work that you've done? And what was it all about? What was the process like? Did they create that process in a manner that's going to be feasible for what you want in your process? And when we facilitate the creative process, how does that go and flow? What are some expectations? How many revisions can you get before you're going to need to invest more time and energy and money? What is it that you're going to do to be able to give them what you need to get designed, right? And can they ask those questions that can help guide and mold and grow the vision that you may have for what it is that you need designed? So those are some things to consider when thinking about hiring a graphic designer and why you need a designer. So if you've got questions about graphic design or logos, or maybe it's time for a brand refresh. Maybe, it's been 10 years and it's time to refresh that brand. Maybe that font that you've used is outdated, or maybe it's time to really just completely redesign your logo and brand. And maybe you need to get it to where it can be better displayed in embroidery or digital formats, right? What is it that you need, and how can we help you? Think about the things that designers think about that you may not necessarily know all about, right? The universal principles of design can apply to all the different mediums, and they've really had all of this education and skill set doing these things. They're thinking about emphasis and dominance and placement and the balance, and of course unity or harmony and alignment with what's going on, and they know what's going to work and what doesn't work, and maybe they're going to use contrast or white space or no space, right? They're going to maybe use some similarity or repetition in the design, or they're going to think about the proportions of what's going to happen and what's going to be legible and what kind of fonts to use that are going to be legible in different aspects, whether it's a website or if it's on a logo or if it's on a shirt, like we were talking about embroidery. They're going to think about the movement of what it is to use the different types of design techniques to make movement appear, right? So think about all the things that a designer would go through in order to make your design the way it needs to be. Things to consider. Go to peppershock.com, check out our portfolio. That's something that you can do to see what other people have done and how we have been able to design things for our clients just as much as we could for you. All right, now it is time to speak with Nick.
Welcome to the Marketing Expedition Podcast, an auditory journey through the latest in marketing, branding, and advertising. Now, here's your Marketing Expedition guide, Rhea Allen.
Welcome to the Marketing Expedition Podcast. I'm your host, Rhea Allen. I'm the president and CEO of Peppershock Media and the founder of the Marketing Expedition community. And today's guest, we have Nick Aldinger. Welcome to the show, Nick.
Hey, Ray.
How are you today?
I'm doing well and glad to be here. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So why don't we tell the audience a little bit more about what you do and just the background of the history, because I know you're a husband and wife team, and I also happen to know your father-in-law when he originally owned it. So let's just tell the story. What happened? How did you get to where you are now, Nick?
Yeah, well, I am Nick Aldinger, CEO of IVL Events. We are a events company, so we produce everything from trade shows, conferences, to virtual events. We've been around since 1990. Again, the company had about 6 trade shows back then. And we purchased the company in 2013. And we now have over 21 trade shows in a given year. And we support multiple conferences. Now, the conferences we support are not only here in the Valley, but all over the US. And then virtual events, thanks to COVID, we got into a lot of virtual event support in 2020 and are still doing a lot of virtual events for primarily here in the Treasure Valley.
Right, because you usually would have lots of people come and show up, and then COVID kind of kicked you out and said, nope, you can't do it. So what was the first event that you took virtual?
Yeah, so, in the trade show space, we actually did not take anything virtual in the trade show space. So as you can imagine, taking a trade show in the virtual space, the technology just still is not quite there yet. There's some software programs out there, but it just does not work. Having that tangible, feeling that product or hearing that service, you just can't replicate that in a virtual environment. Right. So where we actually did a lot of the virtual events is we got companies calling us and saying, hey, we want to do our conference, but we don't know how. Is this something you can help out with? And so we quickly, the word everyone uses, but pivoted. Yep. And at first we said no, because we thought COVID was only going to last a couple months. Yeah. And we missed the boat on that prediction. But by the summer of 2020, we were taking on contracts and helping people with whether it was their conference, their meetings, and people just didn't feel comfortable with the technology, and they wanted it just to work while they would give out that information, again, whether it was educational or as meetings. And that's how it kind of started. And we just started doing a lot of those virtual events while our trade show side was down. And our trade show side was down for about 14 months. We didn't do a large scale trade show.
Right. And that was your bread and butter. So it's good that you found a way to make that income. I remember too, we took on some virtual events, and it's not our everyday. We don't always do events, but it's like, somebody wanted to have a high school graduation, and of course we have gear, but it was like, well, let's just see what we can do. And the weirdest thing that we did was a graveside funeral. Did you know that?
I did not know that one. I know you did a lot in the graduation space. How did that go?
Oh my gosh. Well, it was for a very prominent, former senator. And so he had probably, several hundred people show up. And the good thing is all the gravestones are 6 feet apart. And so when people were there, they were all, kind of leaning up against, it was awkward. But then we had Zoom, and we had to, because out on in a cemetery, there's no place to plug in. So we had to have the generator and the van, and then we had Cradle Point so that we had internet connectivity, and we had probably 600 people on Zoom. Now, this is kind of early on in the stage. And so I will tell you that when they're a little bit mature audience, they don't always realize that the camera is on. And so we were going through the scroll, and oh my gosh, there's several kind of, older gentlemen without their shirts on. And I was like, oh dear Lord. And like they were holding the phone like up their nose. And I'm like, this is, I can't even, it was so great that they wanted to participate, but they couldn't be there in person. So, we gave an experience that I don't think is something that you normally would have. Yeah, for sure. But it was a wonderful tribute to honor, the person that we did this for. And, his daughter was very grateful. And it was, it was good. We were watching through the film later, and she just started laughing. And it made me feel good that she could, have a moment to feel good and laugh. So that happened. But yeah, there was a lot of different things that we did during the pandemic that we normally never would have considered. And I know you took on a lot of different events and did different things for people, and still made those experiences happen for people, right?
Well, yeah, and you hit on it. Even a weird circumstance like taking, and most people wouldn't think of it as the funeral. Yeah. And taking that in almost a hybrid where people were still there, but you were able to also probably stream it and do some of those things. What's weird about all of this is that now we're looking at other opportunities where people are saying it's not weird now to have a live streaming portion of like a wedding or another event that we normally wouldn't have like live streaming. But now in this day and age that there might not be the opportunity to travel to get here, for a lot of different reasons. So out of that now has come more opportunities for thinking of how do we do these hybrid or these other events in this virtual space. So really interesting to see some of those things come about.
Yeah, I think it's here to stay. I think people, regardless if COVID goes away or not, I think people are just going to come to expect it, that they want to see a live streaming if they can't make it for whatever reason. It doesn't necessarily matter if they're quarantining or afraid to come or whatever, right? Do you feel like this is going to be this way in perpetuity?
I do. I think we're going to see some ebbs and flows. I think, we've been talking now Zoom fatigue now for over a year.
Yes.
And it's with all platforms, not just Zoom, but there's some of our lives that we're seeing a craving where people want to get back to in person, right? And that's whether it's concerts, these traditional things that we're always used to, accustomed to, and then even just like the family events, right? People want to have those be part of those in-person events, and you hit on a word that's really important in that space, and that's the experience, right? We can't have an experience in a virtual environment like we do in an in-person environment because of that emotional connection, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it took this COVID to really know that that's what we're sometimes lacking in these virtual, and even in a virtual space, we're always one-on-one. Even when we have boxes and everyone's around, it's still one-on-one. It's really hard to have these group connections, and that just can't be replaced in person. So I do think it's going to be around, and I think it's going to be in that hybrid that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. But I do see in person really coming back, and going to be a big part here in the future.
So are you doing trade shows now in person?
We are, and matter of fact, we started last summer. We started back up with trade shows. There was a ton of more restrictions in place last summer. Yeah. There are still going into the fall. We still had restrictions, certain restrictions. We follow if a certain facility had certain restrictions. Obviously, we'd follow those. But we're also pro-business, and we want to do things in a healthy and safe and do events safely. But we also know that we service a huge part of the small and medium-sized business community. And we were very strong. We actually hit record numbers last fall in that space. And so far, 2022 is looking to be another strong year in in-person events, specifically in the trade show space.
Right. And people just are eager to get out and network and be around other people. And, I imagine that you've invested stock in hand sanitizer and masks and, all the things, right?
Yeah, we definitely are become very familiar with a lot of those products. So
yeah. Well, let's hope we don't run out of toilet paper like we did in 2020.
Yeah, no kidding. Unfortunately, I have my fair share of toilet paper too. So
yeah, stock up. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things, since we are going on a marketing journey. What are some trends and things that you're seeing that are happening to help get people there, right? We always talk about butts and seats. We need, heads there, right? What's going on? How are you getting people there? How are you having these record-breaking attendance? What is your strategy behind getting people to these events, Nick?
Well, part of it was a little bit of luck, just because of the pent-up demand, right? I mean, it really was. I mean, people really wanted to get back out and do things. Yeah. But even before COVID, one thing that we really started focusing on, and it's an important part of the marketing aspect as we move forward. And again, I'm going to hit that word again, is its experience. We have to change the way we're providing, whether it's a trade show, whether it's a conference, whether it's an educational seminar, is we have to start conveying to our audience what that experience is going to be like, right? It's more than just brand and the service that you're going to be providing. It's the experience. And we really started focusing on making sure our marketing was reflecting that experience. People just don't want to go to a trade show anymore. That doesn't sound fun. And we get it, right? We know that's not what it's about, but it's about going there and having that experience. And that might be a band, that might be a beer garden, that might be activities for the kids. And that's what they want to know. What are they going to get? And the benefits of a trade show, there's a lot of, is, seeing the products and services that is specific to them. Then that becomes, it's really secondary, but they get that once they're there for the experience. So we really started focusing in on our marketing about what is that going to feel like when you're at the event.
Right. Now let's share with the audience some of the types of events that you are putting on now.
Yeah. So like one we have coming up at the end of January is the Idaho Home and Remodeling Show. So this is a big one for people that are doing remodel projects.
Right.
As we all know that the prices went through the roof. And so buying a house might not be an option, but remodeling a house is. And so this is a very popular show, but that's an example where people could come in and actually get those educational seminars about how to do remodeling, all sorts of things. We do the Boise Flower and Garden Show. We do a lot of family events, we do the Kids Discovery Expo. And one thing we do with that one is, it's fun, is with the Kids Discovery Expo is we wanted to make sure every vendor has a hands-on activity for the kids as they go through the show floor, that they could actually interact instead of just hear or see. The kids could participate, and that's a big one. And going back on the experience, right? I think that gets parents excited that their children could actually interact with the booths as they're going through understanding what products are available to their families. So we do a lot of events that ranges everything from home and remodeling to the kids. So
when it brings back a memory, we used to have a client, Handyman Connection, and before she sold it to new people, but we did a co-op activity where it was handyman for day and spa package giveaway. And so the spa company and handyman joined their pool of money together, and they went in together, and of course just amplified how much radio and all the advertising that we could do, because now it's basically double the budget because they're coming together. And it was a really cool co-op to do, and they actually gave it away at the Home and Remodel Show years ago. And it was really kind of fun to see and, be excited about. And, it was just a nice way to make the dollars stretch a little bit further for both of those companies. So there you go. For Valentine's Day, it's a handyman for a day and spa package giveaway. Now, it could be for both him and her, right?
I know my wife would, that would be a perfect gift, because every time I start a handyman project, it turns into 2 more.
Yeah, the honey-do list will get even longer, huh? So, okay, let's talk about the customer journey, your customer journey. Like, who are your ideal customers and why? Who do you look for as an ideal vendor or, a trade booth person or sponsor? What is it that you look for?
We're looking for someone who's trying to get new leads, right? A new way of getting in front of their customer. And again, our premise is really trying to make sure people and business owners know that there is still an effective way to get in front of the customer, and that's that face-to-face marketing, right?
Yeah.
And by all means, and this better than anybody else, you have to plan the digital space. Digital marketing is an important piece and should be a part of everyone's marketing budget.
I agree.
But taking that and looking at other means, there might be a really effective ROI for your marketing dollar, because we also know that digital marketing spend can be fairly high and expensive. But just like with anything, you have to do your research. And for our shows, depending on our show, we looked at those companies that would be a perfect fit, that want to get in front of their customers and talk with them about their product and services. And what we do is kind of like your co-op story earlier. we take all the marketing dollars for that customer, and we have radio, billboards, print, social media. We're kind of that marketing arm to drive that foot traffic to get them in front. And then hopefully, if it all works, then they're getting those leads in front of them at the show. So then it could be an effective way for that marketing arm to work for them to get those new customers. That's our goal.
Do you have any success stories you would care to share from some of your clients and things that they've told you that have happened because of it?
Yeah, I mean, one of them was a gentleman. I won't name any names, just to keep him. But
keep it all fair.
He called and he said he was struggling to generate more leads because he and I asked him how he was getting these leads, and he was driving around to businesses and walking in their doors and trying to set meetings. And I said, well, how many people are you going to get in front of on a given week? And he said, well, on a good day, I could get probably 4 or 5, through 4 or 5 doors, and maybe get a meeting out of that. And I was like, wow, well, I said, an effective way to use your time is maybe spend a weekend at one of these shows and see how many customers you could get. And he received over 40 leads at one of these one-day events. And that was for a few $100s, and was a really effective use of his time, his return. And but one thing we did, and this is a really important part of this, is it's the follow-up. Just because you got 40 leads, whether it's actually driving around and getting those, or you're getting them at a trade show, or you get them at a conference, or you get them through digital marketing, if you're getting 40 leads, they're not good if you don't follow up. And we had to put a strategy in place, and that was something we talked about beforehand. And then afterwards, he had a means to actually not only track those leads, but then go and actually follow up on those leads afterwards. Wow. And it actually turned into a really good return on their investment.
Oh, that's great. I love it when stories like that happen, and then they can get some value out of it, and then they do see that return on marketing investments that they're spending in their time. And time is money, right? I mean, how much time was he spending? And I can only imagine right now where people are working from home, I mean, going to door, it would not get you anywhere. I mean, I'm not at my office, if people stop by, they're never going to see me if I'm not, have a time set or whatever now, because I kind of work either at home or at the office or, at a coffee shop sometimes, right? I mean, that just seems like blind luck.
It really is. And I mean, and now even more than ever, walking through a door, I mean, people are putting the dukes up and being like, what are you doing?
The gatekeepers, right? I mean, they're literally shutting the gate, So, okay, when you do these trade shows, you talk about the experience. What are some of the things that you've seen your vendors do to engage people and get them to come into the booth? What kind of makes a really good trade show booth versus not?
Yeah, a big myth out there is that, man, I have to spend a lot of money to make an effective booth. And I have seen some awesome elaborate booths. I'm not going to lie. Some of them are really cool. So a little splashy could be okay.
Yeah.
But it really doesn't even. You don't have to spend a lot of money. It's you. It's being engaging with the customer walking through. The people walking through the door are already there to buy, or they wouldn't be coming through. Mm-hmm. And I love it when someone takes a table, if they have it in front of them, and they move it behind them and pushes that table back, mm-hmm. and they're engaging with the people that are walking by and talking to them about what's going on in their world. Is there a problem? Is there, because then after hearing that problem, there might be a solution right there in front of you. But engaging. And so that's probably our number one request, is people will ask, well, we don't have a lot of money for a fancy booth. And it's like, it's what are you selling? What is the product or service? If that customer's coming through that is already interested into what you have, if you're engaging, mm-hmm. that's half the battle. And they know you're going to be responsive, you have that experience, and you're a good communicator. You're going to be in really good shape. And believe it or not, that seems like it's really simple, but it's missing out there. Well, I've seen people, and honestly, they probably shouldn't even be there, is they'll sit behind a table on their phones and not look up once. That doesn't do any good for anybody. And unfortunately, that's the world we live in, is on our phones, but we have to put it down and be engaging with the person.
Right. Be present. You know, on that note too, just some things that I've found in trade show booths to be engaging is video, having a screen with some video, even if it's just a slideshow of photos showing off your product or service, right? And testimonials or quotes, or just something that's going to capture movement, to capture people's eyes, to then give you the opportunity to get to speak to them, right?
Absolutely. And I would say if someone has, TVs, like a little 32-inch screen TV, they're really easy to set up. You don't need, again, something elaborate,
Right.
but having that video, having that, what we call a sizzle reel, working with even like a company like yourself and creating a 30-second sizzle reel that plays on a loop, you will be amazed at how effective that tool is. And not only can you use it at the trade show, you could use it on your website, you could use it on social media. That video is something that I think is underutilized still today. And now everyone, you could grab, so it's all about catching eyeballs, right? And video is a very effective way to grab those eyeballs, whether it's on the trade show floor or in the digital world. So I would say absolutely that right there is a very effective tool.
And I'll even take it a step further. I just did a recording about how utilizing faces builds trust, eyes and faces, and having people and imagery in your videos can make the engagement even far more, because people like people, right? They resonate with people. And if they show footage of them using their product or the service, and then the other thing is making it audio agnostic, meaning if you don't have the sound up, you can still see what's going on with the subtitles or, the story that you're telling with the footage, you can still have that. And I think especially in trade shows, because you can't really hear it. And then if it is on loop, the same song over and over again all day, you're going to drive your booth neighbors crazy, right?
So true. Yeah. But you're right. And that is a very effective way. Matter of fact, when we're talking about that experience, how do you convey that even for us? We started doing that with video. And I think it's in a very effective way, even on the website, because then people could see that's what I'm going to experience, because they're seeing the people walking around having fun, or this is what it's going to look like when I'm walking through. So it is a very, very effective tool.
And topping that is kids and pets. Now you're going to give it even more engagement.
Oh man, and you should. We put on the Pet Expo here, and I tell you what, if you enjoy watching people and pets together,
yes,
I've seen some crazy things come out of that, and that's some of the best highlight reels right there. I mean, people walking their lizards. I mean, you gotta be.
Yes, indeed. Well, and that's people love to see positive things, and pets on social media tend to make your emotions go the right direction. So that's awesome. So, okay, how can our listeners get in touch with you? And, if they're interested in a virtual event or to attend a trade show, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, it's really easy. Just go to iblevents.com, and right on the homepage, we have a very easy tile-based system, put all the events in order. So what's coming up next all the way through the year for all the trade shows. And then on our toolbar right there, we have conference support or virtual support. So we're here to help. And again, we just love anyone to come down, and if they're looking for a good time, check out some of those trade shows. We're getting really good at those bands and beer and having a lot of fun at those events, because that's what it's about.
You got me sold for sure. And then you also do like conferences, like trainings, right? You have people come in and speak and talk about, different expertise. And I know you've had me speak on one of yours too. And so that's another component that you usually will engage in put in, right? Where you've got workshops and seminars and all that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, the conference side of things is really an interesting an area where we have a lot of the seminars, and we're and even some of them have trade show aspects to it, but most of them are the seminar and educational component. And yeah, those are really informative, and we could help people put on those, or we even put on a few of our own conferences as well.
That's great. Okay, so it just reminded me, when you're in the setting, and you said follow-up is such a key component to this, and we know that word of mouth advertising is the best way to get any, new business. So accelerators of word of mouth advertising. So I'm going to give you Rhea's 5 R's. You ready? I know you can see my hand. So consider this. The last one is going to be a thumbs up. So here we go. Ratings and rankings, reviews, recommendations, referrals, and then rewards. And the rewards is a thumbs up, right? And so all of those ways don't necessarily have to cost you a dime, but those are the things that are going to continue to help you in the lead generation and the different aspects of being able to make the most out of the marketing time that you're investing at the trade show. So there you go. Ratings and rankings, referrals, recommendations, and then rewards, right? So
yeah. And there's one more aspect, I think, when you take your 5 R's, right? Yeah. I would add a 6th one, and that would be raise branding, right? And what I mean by that is your brand is also very, very important. And you've talked about it. You've actually spoke at several of our events on brand and the power of brand that impacts those 5 R's, right? That you won't be effective unless you have an effective brand. And I think that is so important these days to help you be consistent with your service is your brand. And I know this is something an area that you've taught me. And it's so important to be consistent with that brand, right?
Absolutely. I guess we could add some more R's too. I mean, you have to resonate, you have to get results, you have to, and reciprocate, right? I mean, making connections is one thing, but then giving connections and making those connections for other people, ideally we'll get that in reciprocating abundance, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and just like we're doing now, so you're going to be speaking at our new marketing trends for the new year coming up, our annual event. And what goes around comes around. I wanted to have you come and talk all about the different trends that are going on in your industry. And so we're having this event January 19th, 2022. So if you're listening to this after the fact, you'll have to become a Marketing Expedition community member so you can watch all the replays and have what Nick has to say. But what's your topic, Nick? Share your topic.
Yeah, the topic that I'll be speaking on is the power of face-to-face marketing in the digital world.
Yeah, so that'll be curious because it's a little bit of both, right? We go from brick and mortar to click and mortar.
Yeah, and the whole premise is, again, we don't want to forget about face-to-face marketing, but actually having a game plan within this digital world, we have to play in both. Yep. And I think we could be effective. And it's not just about playing in the digital, and it's not just playing in the face-to-face, but if we combine and harness the two together, you could have some really impactful results, especially in this day and age.
Absolutely. Doubling down on digital and shaking more hands and being in front of people is definitely very impactful.
That's right.
Well, okay. So 2 more questions for you. In your industry, where are your resources that you tap into to keep you, informed? And, do you listen to podcasts? Do you read something? Do you belong to, associations? Where is it that you get your information to keep you up to date and cutting edge in what you do?
I read a tremendous amount, and that is probably a wealth of information, and it's a pretty effective way because whether it's reading books or reading blogs or I definitely have been getting into the podcast side of more because it's like mowing that lawn and listening to a podcast is just a really great way to get that information. But I would say reading books and listening, and trying to learn from that perspective is probably my most effective tool. But then it comes into networking, listening to the leaders within the community through networking, going to events, going to like your event next week, new marketing trends. The speaker panel that's listed these are the experts that I want to hear from. So I'm probably more excited to listen to them than actually present. But that's what it's about, because I could always walk away with a nugget that or they'll put it on a different lens, and I'll say, man, I never thought about it that way. And so again, listen to seminars, networking, and I would say reading is probably number one.
What's your favorite book, or maybe a book that you've read recently?
Well, I'll do my favorite book because it's Crossing the Chasm. And Crossing the Chasm, and it is based more on the technology side of why so many companies fail. It's just a really powerful book, and it makes a lot of sense. And I will say that even if you take away the technology component, I could put so many businesses in that, the Crossing the Chasm, because it's just so true, especially in small, medium-sized business. We sometimes try to be that big fish in the big pond, and it doesn't really go so well. And sometimes it's better to be that big fish in that small pond first. And again, there's just so many nuggets in that book, but that's definitely one of my favorite books. And there's so many more, but that's one of my favorites.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Nick, for your time today and agreeing to be a speaker on our upcoming event. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say, too. I love listening to others. I learn just as much as I get to teach, and I think that that's the most important, fun part of being able to do this every year. And so we certainly appreciate your partnership and your friendship. And, I think that these types of things are what helps all of the businesses out there and make this go round, right? The reciprocal effect,
That's so true. And I've known you for a long time, and I definitely, I got excited when you invited me on the podcast today. So first of all, I just want to say thanks. I know there's been so many awesome people that have joined this podcast. So I appreciate to be a part of the marketing expedition.
Absolutely. Glad to have you. And for those of you listening, the best thing that you can do talking about, reviews and rewards and, all of the things is to share this with someone that may need to hear what we had to say today, and give us a review, because that's the best thing that you can do for us. And keeping this Marketing Expedition podcast going and flowing every week. We usually launch it out every Thursday morning. And so we have that ready for you. And thank you so much. And until next time, everyone, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Expedition podcast. Want to continue the journey? Don't miss out on new episodes. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. Wouldn't it be great if there was one place you can go to get all the latest information and tips about marketing and advertising? The Marketing Expedition community is that place. People like you gather in our online community to build relationships with others and find the latest marketing trends, tactics, tools, and technology. We help you build your brand and your bottom line. Start your adventure today. Visit themarketingexpedition.com.